I apologize ahead of time in case I get a little misty-eyed on this one. In a lot of ways, I feel that Gryphon Hall was my firstborn modded kid, and it died of some weird and rare disease before it started school. And so Gryphon Manor, this series, was the second-born, and it survived and thrived through high school. And even though I'm the one walking away, it feels like Gryphon Manor's leaving the nest, and I'm now considering my options for the next stage of life. And in a way, I guess I am. That probably makes the next series the grandparent stage of this little metaphor, and that means that it should be the most fun of the three, like the classic grandparent move of letting the kids have ice cream and candy right before dinner. So let me take you on a little tour of Gryphon Manor as it is, and will forever be. I'll explain what I was trying to do and what I learned through the effort and what I will bring from that into my next steampunkish world. Yeah, you gotta have a place to call home, even if you eventually plan to build a bigger and better one at some point in the future. But in this case, I laid out the grounds of the planned estate, and that took a bit of terraforming as there was quite a bit of open water here, mostly from the river to nowhere, and there was a deep cave system open to the surface that took up the entire northwest quarter, and I had to close that up because it kept giving me a sinking feeling, literally. I needed a temporary shelter, and so I built one of my beloved little timber-framed medieval-style cottages, but I wasn't yet familiar enough with any of the mods to take full advantage of them while building this, so I used the tried-and-true methods I developed from over a decade of plain vanilla Minecraft. And it doesn't look bad, but even to my modded Minecraft veteran eyes all these months later, it looks quaint. But home is where your heart is. Though I guess in Minecraft, home is usually more defined as where your stuff is. Of course, I had played enough with the Create mod in Gryphon Hall to know that I was going to need some rotational power early on to carry me through to the more sophisticated bits of the mod that come at later stages of the game. And since my water wheel experience in Gryphon Hall may have been what killed that world, I decided to go off a windmill instead. And so this one was my first. And right away, it had me consistently feeding myself on bread much sooner than I would have otherwise, thanks to the ability to mill wheat into flour and then make dough, which basically tripled my bread production. And when I told my teenage daughters that they could be rolling in dough just by playing Minecraft, they were, of course, unimpressed. And there was a fair bit of eye rolling, too. Of course, man cannot live by bread alone, in or out of Minecraft, and after just a few short trips wandering around the world, I had already accumulated quite a few different types of trees and crops, so life became rather safe and comfy, especially once I got the estate fence put up. And for the record, that's pretty snazzy upscale fence worthy of any posh neighborhood, and it kept the local undesirables out of the yard. Speaking of which, I can kind of sort of tolerate zombies and skeletons. I mean, I'm not a huge fan, mind you, but yeah, I accept their existence as a simple fact of Minecraft life, and I grudgingly tolerate them as long as they stay out of my way. However, I never have and never will like or even tolerate creepers. They are the bane of my existence. And what was I talking about? Oh yeah. There was nothing particularly magical about this little estate. It was pretty much manually operated, but it is based on and refined by years of vanilla gameplay, and only the windmill was different. However, as I'm now a total Create mod fanboy, I will always have the Create mod in my mod mix, and so this new model, complete with windmill, is probably close to my new template for my starting bases from now on. However, what has changed is my strategy for the next level, for my permanent bases. Now, historically, I would move from something like this cottage to something much bigger and grander, but still completely centralized, as complete and all-encompassing as I could make it. But with modded Minecraft, my design goals have shifted over the past couple of years from creating a world where I'm trying to make something that just looks good, like an incredibly detailed model, to something that actually functions for me and the other inhabitants of the world. And so it needs to be somewhat more realistic. I guess the best word for it then would be a simulation. In fact, I think actually functional and realistic kind of go hand in hand. Not in a Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie kind of way, but more like a peanut butter and jelly kind of way. It's classic, it's timeless, it's forever. And what that means is that permanent bases, or at least my permanent bases, will no longer be all-encompassing, but rather highly specialized and somewhat scattered. Even my plans for a new large city that will serve essentially as a mega base are based on the idea that it will be a living, breathing city for its inhabitants first, and a base second. So I might have something in the city that's just for me where I can keep my most commonly used materials or whatever. But if I need something, such as a precision mechanism, I would go to the precision mechanism shop or factory or wherever I wind up keeping those things. And it will be located somewhere in the city or possibly even a nearby settlement. And I will need to go and get it from there. It's no longer about just looking good while min-maxing the actual gameplay. It's about being inside and participating as an active part of the world. I may be building it, but I'll be sharing it with dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe even eventually thousands of others. Mostly idiot villagers, but I'll see if I can do something about that as well. Of course, there are limits to realism and functionality, but from now on, they will play a larger role in my vision and metrics. And there's something about that stirs my soul. Or maybe that's just the beef and bean burrito I had for lunch. I called it a workshop, but really this is much more like a factory floor. In some ways, I guess this is my version of the Bat Cave. I envisioned a big old mess of contraptions and workstations set up for my convenience in processing and retrieving materials. And I think it really would have been amazing to see it all up and running as I intended. But I learned some hard lessons. And until I'm playing on a big old monster gaming rig with computing horsepower of the Super Collider in Bern, Switzerland, that's probably not realistic. If this were still a vanilla and fully manual world, I could keep it all centralized and condensed. But modded Minecraft? Specifically create modded Minecraft? No. I can't keep all those operations so tightly centralized like that. I need to spread the love a bit. And again, that is somewhat more realistic, and having them in a place like a city works for me because related industries would still tend to be fairly close together in a place like that. So it's a good compromise. Of course, an alternative would be to scatter them to different towns and villages, and then I would be spending a whole lot more of my time moving between them and gathering or dropping stuff off. Then it would be less Minecraft and more like transport craft. And that might still happen to some degree, but that's just how a living, breathing world works. I don't know about you, but I can't find anybody growing all the stuff I eat or manufacturing all the stuff I need and use within a mile or two of my house. All of it's trucked in from a very long ways off. However, I'll be able to really scale up the production of individual items or resources, and the experience I gained with Gryphon Manor will really help when I get to those individual factories and facilities. And once I remove the need to stack everything almost on top of each other, I'm free to be more flexible in my designs. Instead of making something compact that works and then hoping it kind of fits into my theme, I can take up some extra room, and without a doubt I can make something work in the added space. But the extra space means extra resolution in terms of details I can add, and extra details means better theming, better immersion, and a notch or two higher on the coolometer. This workshop is also where I cut my teeth on the Create Steam engines, and that was a necessary struggle that I'm glad that I went through. I learned about producing energy at scale and the nuances that go with it. However, I also learned how much it can hurt my system performance, so now I move on to the next series with some hard-won lessons and a proven backup plan in case I do run into Create mod-based perf issues down the road. And of course, doing without the Create mod is just not an option. I mean, in all seriousness, if I stop playing with Create, I'll probably stop playing Minecraft. Though I'm pretty sure the folks at Steam would love to see me back in the store browsing again. I'm sure I probably put 4 or 5 of their kids through college already. I'm really surprised that nobody ever asked why I named this place the Watsoris Mine. It's actually a very old joke that goes back to my very first Minecraft world, where I had built a mine near my little castle and I was looking for a good name for it. And then I had a completely different and separate conversation with my wife that provided some inspiration. Quote, "What's yours is mine," quote. The name stuck, and the first mine I have built in every world after that was the Watsoris Mine. This one was like the 5th or 6th of that line. But vanilla mines are just window dressing. I don't really need them. They don't actively produce any more resources than anywhere else I was already digging. So it's just for show. But this Watsoris mine was a true iron mine. I mean, it was actively pumping out iron, and that's pretty amazingly cool. This kind of thing is only possible for mods like Immersive Engineering and the Create Ore Extraction mod. And they are a godsend to somebody like me, where I have a ton of building to do, but I want to run the world in a survival-ish kind of way. Of course, this is exacerbated by trying to build a steampunkish world, because the genre is one of metal and gears. Especially metals like copper, brass, and iron. So, endless ore veins? Yes, please. Just as Create is a staple of all my future worlds, the Create Ore Excavation mod will be a staple of any world that's representative of the Industrial Age or later. I also like the idea of having an industry of some kind that close to Andover, as it kind of gives the village a reason for being on the map. Now, most settlements are where they are to take advantage of a local resource or a location of strategic or economic value, such as being by the water, being by a crossroads, being next to a vast ore deposit, or being close to parks and good schools. Of course, it was here at the Watsoris Mine where I was truly schooled in Create mod performance issues. I had originally built 4 windmills to power the mine, but after that, anytime I even looked in this direction, whether or not the windmills were even visible, I went into PowerPoint slideshow mode. And that's when I decided to enable the crafting of creative engines in survival mode and reduce the number of windmills at the mine down to just 1 for show. I have since found a mod that turns Flywheel back on for folks running shaders, and that has definitely made a big difference for the better. But still, I'm ready to fall back if necessary, so fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, and I will burn down your house and come for your pets. This pub is the single hardest thing to say goodbye to in this world. At least it is for me. Obviously, I put a lot of time and effort into this thing, but there is a sentimental side of this too. So, way back during the Dark Ages, I lived in the United Kingdom for a couple years, and I really enjoyed it. And that's probably what drives a lot of what you've been seeing in this series in Gryphon Hall, as well as what you will probably see in the new series. Anyway, I love the idea of pubs, not just as a place to go drink, but as a place that is a social and often economic hub of a village or neighborhood. So, fast forward a few years, but still in the Dark Ages, when my best friend Eric and I decided to run an electronic bulletin board system on my spare Amiga computer. I found that BBSs had a great deal in common with pubs, aside from the whole serving of food and drink, but definitely in the whole socializing and bringing people together space. And so I named our BBS the Rose and Crown Pub, and it was very successful for the year or so we ran it. Therefore, when the time came to build a nice coaching inn for Andover, the first name that came to my mind was the Rose and Crown. And frankly, I stopped there. However, I really fell in love with this build, and I would absolutely love to find a place like this in real life and spend a long weekend there with the wife, or even the whole family. It was my first in-depth experience with villagers in modded Minecraft, and it was a painful reminder of just how dense villagers can be, and also how unexpected mod interactions can make villagers even denser and more troublesome than normal, which is something I never would have thought was possible without converting them all into creepers or having them just crash the game world. Anyway, of course there will be inns, pubs, and taverns in the new series, and you can bet the house that at least one of them will be named the Rose and Crown. If I'm going to be brutally honest, the town hall turned out to be my least favorite build in this world. There are aspects of it that worked okay or even worked well, such as the market cross, which took all of 15 seconds to make, but is pretty much borderline perfect. However, the details I was trying to add just didn't seem to work at this scale, and for a building like this that is so public and truly representative of the community, I think they would have upped the scale a bit to kind of show off, and at that point I would have had a little more flexibility to add relevant detail and get the proportions right, or more right. However, the placement and general layout of the hall was pretty spot on, and of course I will keep adding these types of public buildings in future worlds, especially with my new politician profession for villagers. Basically a better dressed and self-important nitwit. And in fact, the new series will have quite a few of these, and the city hall in that world will be substantially larger and grand. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. This block of shops turned out well enough, but I took a shortcut in crafting a single building that I divided into separate shops, and that's more of a modern idea. I mean, truthfully, each of the shops should have been their own little building, or if there was going to be a single building for many vendors, it would have been more of a big open market hall. But anyway, I took shortcuts to kind of keep things moving along, and it has bugged me ever since. However, aside from that aspect of it, I do think it turned out pretty well. It fit into the village nicely and otherwise did the trick. Now, one thing I would not change is the basic design of individual shops. Yes, villagers are troublesome, and giving them too much freedom can bite you in the butt, as they might wander off, never to make it back to their home or shop. But locking them up in little cells or stalls is a time-proven approach, but kind of flies in the face of my living, breathing world concept. So setting them up as a full house, self-contained, yes, but still a proper full house, is still the way to go. At least it is in my opinion. And then there are the professions. Now, I've already ranted about the villager professions as they are in vanilla, and the short story is I absolutely hate them. I've not been able to find a way to cancel the existing vanilla professions or redefine their workstations, so I'll just have to live with that. However, I am able to blow away all the vanilla trades and replace them with trades of my own, so I am. I've also successfully created the new professions I talked about last episode. Now, I'm currently running through the full roster of both vanilla and new professions and defining a complete set of trades for each. Now, I finished with the trades for the vanilla butcher and armorer, and I finished the trades for one of my new professions, the alchemist. So villagers will almost certainly still be functional idiots in the next series, but if and when I can get them to work, they will be much more useful and practical functional idiots. Of course, I had done some terraforming on every Minecraft world I've ever had. However, this time it was different. I wasn't just terraforming immediately at or around individual builds to facilitate those builds. This time I was really going to town, so to speak. I was removing, replacing, and planting entire forests. I was building roads, bridges, and tunnels, and I had plans for full-fledged transportation networks and systems. And it was ambitious, to say the least, but it was really thrilled with the final result, or at least the bits I was able to finish. Yeah, it's a lot of extra work, but I feel like the work was worth it. And if I had finished more of it, I think the impact would have been even more dramatic and satisfying. So, yeah, that is a thing that's here to stay. In some ways, the world was starting to feel like and be inspired by MMO game worlds and regions, and the ideas started flowing like a raging flash flood, and I was motivated to build a world that I would want to be dropped down into and explore. And with, new surprises and sights around every corner and hidden Easter eggs in the nooks and crannies. Now, obviously, I didn't quite make it to that point, but I got a peek at what's possible, and now it beckons me onward. And this is actually where I started to think that I needed to change to a Let's Play format. For one thing, I will be able to discuss what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, even as the thoughts come to me. And while it may slow down the pace of progress, I think it will spur conversation and interaction with you, the viewers. And I think some really great ideas and plans can spring from that kind of discussion. At that point, it'll stop being just my project and will become our project. And that's kind of exciting to me. I've shared many of my plans for this world with you over the past year, and now they will obviously never come to fruition because I'm going to leave this world behind. However, the ideas were solid and are still exciting, and I'll take them to the next series with me. Transit systems based on create mod trains, but that look like ships and aircraft, still on the menu. Expanding the game world into distinct regions with cultural distinctions is likewise still going to happen. A working underground will still happen. Fortifying and taming the nether still happen. Basically, just the act of coming up with those plans brought me the realization that a modded Minecraft world could be so much more than what I had originally planned, and I've been really exploring my options. So, that is Gryphon Manor, and I'm happy to give it a send-off instead of a wake. However, this is not the end of me. You may have already noticed that the mod deep dives are coming faster and furiouser than ever before, and the new series is about to begin. So I've already started. We're outlining episode 0, and I am eager to actually get back in there and building stuff. In the meanwhile, I hope you will tune in again to see the end result, and I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and a touch of good fortune. Take care of yourselves out there. Cheers.